This program is sponsored by Auckland City Council. 56,827. The number of businesses in Auckland City. That's 15% of all New Zealand businesses. Traffic on Queen Street to move at a snail's pace. Auckland City Council's Transport Committee has endorsed a proposal to reduce Queen Street's current 50 km per hour speed limit to 30 km per hour. Transport Committee Chairman Ken Baguley says reducing the speed limit and improving compliance by motorists will help reduce the severity of injuries to pedestrians, cyclists and motorcyclists when involved in crashes. Key improvements completed as part of the Queen Street upgrade include 3 new pedestrian crossings, widened footpaths and improved signal phasing. These have already created a safer environment for pedestrians, and a reduced speed limit would further enhance this.
If you're talking about footpaths, that all happened before me, and I don't really wish to comment on whether it was right or wrong. But certainly when you walk down Queen Street now, and particularly down below the town hall, like we're in the middle of a shambles above the town hall right now, and I guess the sooner they get that done the better, but if you go down below the town hall, it certainly has a better appearance from a pedestrian point of view.
Ken Baguley says council officers have approached him and said the average vehicle speed on Queen Street is currently close to 31 km per hour. The chairman of the Transport Committee observed that the proposal to formally reduce the speed limit is not expected to have any appreciable adverse effect on Queen Street businesses and retailers, journey times, vehicle emissions, or the quality and frequency of passenger transport services.
The officers came to us and said, well, the average speed down there is about 31k anyway. There's some very good safety reasons why we'd like to make the limit 30k, and particularly to, late at night to give the police greater powers to police unruly elements, certainly up and down Queen Street. There are a lot of people living in the central city now, a lot of apartments, and Queen Street is very busy at night. It has been turned into a pretty attractive pedestrian type area. Yeah, we had no problem supporting them in their bid to reduce the speed limit to 30k.
He was quick to add that this was not a ploy to garner more revenue through the levying of fines, as that fell to the central government domain.
It was not an attempt to increase revenue through fines, because, as I understand it, the fines actually go to the government, not to unfortunately, not to the City Council. But there's no attempt to do that. But it's purely safety and to facilitate a greater feeling of comfort for the pedestrians.
Mr Baguley also revealed that the council is considering introducing bus lanes on Queen Street in the future.
What level of agreement you are having from the business community on Queen Street?
We've had no negative feedback from CBD. The negative feedback we've had, and which I'm certainly taken on board very seriously, is to do with bus lanes. And I'm certainly discussing that with the officers and getting a report, because the feedback we have from the CBD is they are very anti putting bus lanes into Queen Street. Now, whether there's a more imaginative way that we can achieve the officers' objectives of getting a better throughput of buses, those are the things that we're looking at, but we're certainly not firing ahead with any bus lane strategy in Queen Street at the moment. But we do have to look at it, because the previous council had moved down the path of adopting bus lanes down Queen Street. But as I say, the CBD are very strongly against that from all the feedback I've had, and I've certainly taken that on board.
The proposed 30 km per hour speed limit would operate on Queen Street between Merrill Drive and Custom Street. Aucklanders will have an opportunity to comment on the proposal in the coming weeks. The Transport Committee will consider all feedback before making a final decision.
and there are some plans for a bus station behind the Bledisloe building. That's not in the budget at the moment. It would be nice to think that it was in the budget, because if you do get those bus stations in there and you start to think of the buses in the same way as you see trams work in Melbourne, then you could see a day where buses only go up Queen Street and only go up the centre of the street. So that, and maybe the rule would be that you're not allowed to overtake the bus, because I don't think it's too much of a problem to walk down Queen Street, but if you had buses and more of them going up Queen Street, going past the terminal drop-off points, then would people accept that to get into the middle of Queen Street they would go to a bus station and then get on a transit type bus that would just take them down Queen Street? So those are the sort of things that we're asking the officers to look at, and I think fewer buses going up Queen Street with more people in them would be better than what we've got at the moment, is a whole lot of buses going to all points of the city with not a lot of people in them.
You mentioned a proposed feasibility study that is being conducted at your end with regards to a bus station behind Bledisloe building. Is that a designated land that is available to the council, or the council has to purchase?
No, there's land already there, and it's been a point of debate for many years. They've had all sorts of plans of what they want to use with it. It's not on the agenda at the moment. I think there's only so much people that the council can do. Previously they had probably 100 odd projects that they had on the go, and they're running around filling in bits of paper and not getting the projects completed. CNR said we don't want to have more than 4.8% rate increase, so therefore we need to rationalise the projects, and that is what we've done. So we've put a hold on 8 different projects, including any discussion around that one at the moment. It's $175 million that they are spending, and I think just under 40 different projects. So there's an awful lot going on, and you just can't do everything.
When questioned why the work on Queen Street is taken up in instalments, making the upgrade more expensive, he said,
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a few things floating around out there. I mean, I personally question why buses from the suburbs goes down Queen Street. To me, it'd make more sense if the buses from the suburbs went to effectively the same thing as that downtown bus centre outside the railway station. But for that to happen, we need to get a bus station in the probably in the north or in the southeast and the southwest of the city, up around about the town hall, and maybe something around the university.
In the past years, tens of millions of ratepayer dollars have been spent on the makeover of Queen Street, and consultants and contractors have had a field day.
So is pruning down the bureaucracy and the red tape and monies being spent on consultation process or consultants?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, we at the last transport meeting, we put through suggested changes to the annual plan that took about $60 million off the anticipated spend for transport. Now, in many projects, you get a 20-25% percentage of the project cost being in all sorts of fees. So if it was that high, I mean, 20% would mean that if we've shaved 60 million off things, then it could be that there's $12 million worth of consultancy fees that have been saved. Now, it's certainly, look, we're not trying to cut everything out. We just want to get a balance to what we do, and we want to make sure we can afford to do what we say we're going to do. Because there's 1,000 worthwhile projects, all benefit the community, but we want to cut the cloth to suit, and we are committed to not increasing rates by more than 4.8%, plus doing away with the rort of the ratepayers when it came to water care charges. Now, we think that was an incorrect use of that whole water care structure. So that's what we campaigned on, and that's what we're doing.
So what sort of spend on consultants we are talking about under your tenure? here?
Look, I don't have those figures. All I see is there's $175 million worth of projects. Buried amongst those costs would be the consultancy fees, and quite appropriately. I mean, you've got to have consulting engineers, and you've got to have lawyers and accountants, and there's some criticism of a report that came out recently to do with the Greater Auckland that commission. And Deloitte's were used for that. I don't have a problem with that. They needed to get the thing out quickly, and they had the resources. Where if they don't have the resources sitting there at the council to do these things, then I guess you do need to employ outsiders. It costs you more on an hourly rate, but then you don't have all the long-term commitment to a staff member. So, the quality of advice you get can be better. So it's a matter of being sensible about where you use a consultant as against where we use inside staff. So we just want to be sensible about it.
Mayor John Banks promised to end the regime of wasteful spending and rein in the culture of consulting the consultants.
Isn't it some kind of a picture emerging out here that if you spend and hire the consultants and spend the money on, then it is perfectly fine, but if the other party does it, then it's a culture of waste?
No, I think we, at this point, I don't think we've put up any proposition that spends money. But I guess I'm learning as you come into this business, if I can call it that the council officers certainly drive what happens. I mean, as politicians, you do tend to sit there and face up to the consequences of what the council officers put in front of you. But look. Auckland City, the whole Amity project out around Panmure, Mount Wellington, is I guess it's a big picture item, but it's an enormous cost. 4% of rates, $4 million represents 1% of rates. So, if you're spending $100 million somewhere, you're spending 25% of the rate take. So, you've got to take those things into account. It'll be lovely to have everything. It'll be interesting to see what happens out on Queen's Wharf, where you've got ARC, which is 50% effectively owned. You could in a say, I mean, the 50% of the ratepayers of ARC are in fact Aucklanders within the Auckland City Council. So it's all the same people. Who's going to pay for that enormous development? I think a tour ship, or the tourist type ship, or the big ships that come in with all the people on board, be fantastic, ideal. But if it's uneconomic for the harbour board to have it, do the ratepayers pay for it? How do you pay for it? But no, good idea. Let's get on and look at it, but let's make sure we do what we can afford to do.
So finally, when are we talking about Queen Street being free of all the works? When is it going to be totally opened without any work going on over there?
When?
What time frame are
you can read the signs as well as I do. I've got, I think it's imminent. I really haven't got that information. Certainly it's this year. I think they've pretty much finished down the bottom, haven't they? And certainly we're right in the middle of some major changes out here. I mean, I just work just off Queen Street, so I'm pretty aware of what's going on. And I do note that they appear to be burying a few cables and things as they go down there, so maybe a bit of technology has been put into the street as well, which I'm delighted about. No, it's been a long, hard project and difficult conditions for the people working there, but we'll be pleased to get it finished.
With the council's eye fixed on Queen Street into the future, there seems to be no respite for the much harrowed Auckland City ratepayers. This program was sponsored by Auckland City Council. 9,461. The number of businesses in the Central Business District. 78,480. The number of people who work in those businesses.